what we looked at these memes though, and we talked about, I actually forgot the chart, but we talked about this a little bit last week. So back up a little bit. There was this meme with, I don't know, the White House, and it had this faint image of Jesus in the background. Okay, again, contradictions are everywhere, but I'm not sure what part of "you shall make no image before me" that is an image in heaven or earth. Okay, Jesus is up in heaven, and images of, never mind, I won't get down that rabbit track, but at any rate, the whole idea is wouldn't it be wonderful if Jesus was the President of the United States? Okay? Where do ideas like this come from? Well, ideas like this come from dominion theology, which is uniquely Protestant. No, well, not uniquely Protestant, but is very much Protestant. This whole idea that the church militant, I think they call it, or whatever, is going to take over the world more and more and more and more until Jesus comes back. All right? Well, there's only one problem with that. The only problem with that is this isn't Jesus' country. This isn't Jesus' kingdom. Jesus is the king of a kingdom that is still up in heaven. All right? God's kingdom is not here yet. That's what the book of Revelation is about. When God comes down to earth and takes over the earth and then installs his kingdom on earth, in which Jesus will reign from the throne of David for 1,000 years in Jerusalem. Okay? So,
I know my friend sent me that mime too, and dear sweet lady, but very, very much of the Gnostic and mystical bent. And the first time I saw that with Christ kind of superimposed over the White House, and wouldn't it be great if Jesus were in the White House? And I'm yelling at the computer, no, no, because that's where he doesn't want to be. That's not his role and position. His kingdom is not of this world. It's to come, and we are responsible to rule and govern wisely. He's given that responsibility to us.
mm-hmm.
And and it's just like right underneath it, she had posted, "Let's put prayer back in the schools." And I'm yelling at the computer, why? Why? You know, this is not why we have our educational school systems, and I don't think I would want unbelievers being hypocritical and pretending to pray or giving
Right.
assent to prayer. And then, of course, who are people praying to?
Right.
This is not, I think, what God means in His Word by prayer. And again, it's the dominion theology. The Puritans brought it over with them. Before they even got off the ships, they were told that this was the new Zion, the new promised land that God had given them because Israel rejected Christ as Messiah. And therefore, America was the new Jerusalem, the new promised land, and that the Puritans then were God's chosen people.
Right.
And and this has snowballed through the years into this dominion theology that is not at all scriptural. And
Right.
so.
Okay, so we read in, I forget whether it's 1st or 2nd Corinthians, where Paul says that we are ambassadors.
Ambassadors.
Well, Peter says straight up that
Mhm.
we're aliens here.
Right.
We're sojourners
Mhm.
in a foreign land. aliens in a foreign land. Okay? So basically, if we're part of God's kingdom and His family, and we're aliens here, guess what that means? But more specifically, Paul said that we were ambassadors for Christ. Now, what's an ambassador?
A representative.
A representative from in one country that represents another country. So here's what you have Christians saying constantly, and this all flows from this Protestant idea of dominion theology. And the vast majority of Protestants, whether Methodist, Baptist, blah, 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 are of dominion theology. Now, you'll get a lot of evangelicals that will deny dominion theology.
Mm-hmm.
Follow?
Mm-hmm.
But yet, and this may be a question we might ask in Indianapolis, do you believe in dominion theology?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay. Is God's kingdom presently on earth? But of course. Okay?
Yep.
Right? They don't believe in dominion theology, but Christ's kingdom is presently on earth. Okay? So, and this is typical. Alright? So, basically, God's kingdom is on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would therefore be absolutely awesome. It would absolutely be awesome if the President of the United States was the President of the United States was a Christian. It would be absolutely wonderful if Congress was controlled by men who are mostly Christians. It would absolutely be awesome if the Senate was controlled by men who were Christian. Okay? Would all absolutely be on it. But you know what you're saying? That is like the ambassador of Sweden here in this country. Can you imagine flipping on the news, whether on TV or radio, and hearing that the ambassador of Sweden is running for president of the United States? What would you say?
Well, he can't do that.
He can't do that. What would you say if the ambassador in the United States to Denmark wanted to run for Congress? We would say, yo, are you smoking crack? All right?
Don't you know our Constitution?
Right, right. So see, this is why Christians need to read their Bibles for themselves, come up with their own conclusions, and function in that way. The reason they are all messed up on all of this stuff is because whatever comes from the pulpit every Sunday and Wednesday night is just taken as gospel.
It would also behoove Christians to know about history. If they knew about what John Calvin tried in his theocracy experiment in Geneva, and then what the Puritans did when they came over to the New World and tried to establish a theocracy.
Mm-hmm.
And if they would research the grave problems that occurred as a result of this type of mentality, rather than self-government, they were saying that God governed, but yet they were God's mouthpieces and God's official representative, and so therefore what they said came from the
Right.
mouth of God, and the people had to obey and do, or there were terrible consequences.
Right.
Terrible consequences, even death, for
Mhm.
disagreeing. this is not what we as believers really desire for our country. We want a strong country. We want one that's ethical and honest. Our leaders to be ethical and honest, who hold to the Constitution and defend the Constitution. Nowhere in there did our founding fathers insist upon the leaders and the representatives of the people be, quote, Christians. Because many of the writers of the Constitution and the writers of the Declaration of Independence were not Christians under the definition that people think of the word Christian. They were God believers.
Right.
Many of them were deists. There were a sprinkling of atheists in there, but they were moral men, intelligent, moral, ethical men. And again, people are willing to believe whatever flows down from somebody who says that they are an authority. And now in the age of computers and research is so much easier than going to the library and fighting through the Dewey Decimal System. Researching the history of our beliefs and the people who we tend to follow, Calvin, Luther, the Pope, the Catholics, Augustine, St. Jerome. If we would go do some digging and research, I think our eyes would be open as to where we have been deceived into believing a lie. And again, God's Word is clear and is not difficult to understand for the most part. It just, we need to be in the Word.
Right.